Hello everyone, I'm Force McFreelava, and this is Speedplay Italy in Hearts of Iron 3, number 7. We left off transferring our troops over to Spain, dealing with what remains of the British up in the British Isles. They did take one of their victory points back, but that's great, because we want to be the people who take the very last victory point from the British, so that it is our war goals that get met. We've learned that lesson with the French because the Germans defeated the French and we didn't get any of their African holdings, which was literally everything that we were asking for. So we're not going to let history repeat itself. We're going to clean up the rest of British resistance, missing that one victory point city simply because I want to be the one who enforces demands. That is the very key point. And it is something that's going to be very important. We can also go after India. We have to go after India, quite frankly, because we need at least one more victory point somewhere outside of their home islands in order to enforce peace against them. Sadly, we just lost a transport, which is just terribly unfortunate. And that kind of limits our abilities for right now. So we're just going to focus on research. We're also losing quite a bit of convoys, so naval research is going to be key for at least the near future. That British armored unit seems to be moving around a bit, so we're going to try to keep it pinned down. Other than that, we have a slight battle over here. We'll send our air support over to hopefully turn that into our favor, and it looks like it's going alright. That battle is just going to be fought over and over again. Hopefully we'll push the British out everywhere else. We are going to start building even more transports, just because we always have an issue with transports, and even more convoys, same reason. We do have some industrial capacity on its way, and quite a few other things. For the moment, though, it looks as though we are having some supply issues, so we're going to actually try to defeat that that British group, probably not worrying about the victory points. We do spread out our new industry. Hopefully that will help us at least somewhat, and we go ahead and just attack. We're going to just destroy that British armored unit. It puts them really close to surrendering. Hopefully we'll be able to make an invasion into India and get them to surrender to us and not the Japanese, although it is a bit up in the air. Alright, so I believe that was just our transports finishing, so we're going to send them over. Or no, it was just a bunch of random ships, but now we have transports. So we'll hopefully go take a bit of our armored units out from the British Isles, simply because we apparently are having some supply issues, and I don't want all of our convoys to be sunk by the Americans, who apparently have no trouble getting their shipping all the way over here into the Atlantic. We will send two groups, one armored, one mechanized, to go join with our Marines and use them as a sort of impromptu naval landing force. We did lose 2 Marine divisions in the invasion of Great Britain, and while that's a blow, it could have been so much worse. We could have lost our entire mechanized portion of our army. It might have been a little tiny bit gamey to invade Ireland and then use Ireland as a staging ground, although it really did almost certainly save the entire initiative. We did almost lose it for a moment, but thanks to our Irish holdings and the ability to just get more and more troops from northern Spain, we did pull it off. Alright, we are building 8 groups of mechanized infantry because we will eventually have to fight either Germany or the Soviet Union, or both. And it's probably very good that we get our army up to basically just full fighting potential. We do also land a group of Marines and our mechanized infantry. We're also going to build more convoys, more escorts, just all of that. We attack with our mechanized to the Yemeni capital, and we win. So now we're just going to pluck up our Marines again and go straight for the Omani capital. The reason we're going after Yemen and Oman is because we can't actually quite reach India. So we'll go through these places, just annexing them on the way. We'll send our armor over and around into Abu Dhabi and annex Yemen. We'll also annex Oman. The reason we're just directly annexing them is ideally so we can have direct control over the entire Arabian Peninsula at some point. Japan annexed the Philippines, which is very nice for them. They're also fighting the Soviets, which is very bad for the Soviets. So yeah, Barbarossa has been in effect for a while. We are building those 8 mechanized divisions to prepare ourselves for an eventual campaign against one of the northern colossi. Ultimately, though, we can't really focus too heavily on that while the British still exist. So with that in mind, we are continuing our advance against Oman. And at this point we're going to go rush over to pick up our mechanized unit. Our Marines, unfortunately, are terribly disorganized from the last few landings. So we pluck up our mechanized, and with that, Oman's already gone, so we can just pluck up our armor. We also pick up the remaining armored and mechanized units in Great Britain to just limit how many supplies we have to worry about. It looks as though something interesting is going on with the whole Soviet campaign. We dropped 2 pincers on either side of Bombay, or 1 pincer on either side, so 2 pincers total. And there we go, we've landed. We're going to attack the militia group defending Bombay, and that should hopefully bring the British Empire to its close. And there we go, we have annexed the entire British Empire. Sadly, all of the puppets that I thought we had annexed are all of a sudden our puppets. That's not too bad though. We also have all sorts of islands and various colonial holdings, which we're not even going to bother trying to defend because we can't even defend our own convoys. America's making great progress against Japan, which is awful. And there we go. We have essentially dealt with our thing. We are still at war with all the Commonwealth realms as well as the United States, and all of Africa is still kind of a problem. We're going to build new groups of 3 cavalry and 1 rocket artillery, and we will build 8 of those, and those will be our suppression groups. Why rocket artillery? It's neat, mainly, and we want to get our practicals up if we're going to be real. We need our practicals up on that, so if it does eventually prove to be useful, we can just transfer over to rocket artillery production without being slowed down unreasonably. So that is a pretty decent reason. All that said and done, we're now also probably going to go and declare war on the Persians. Now the reason for this is because even though Iraq is a puppet, we seem to be getting our supplies through them fairly well, as you can see in this map mode. So if we manage to puppet Persia, we should hopefully get some amount of supplies through the Persian countryside, which will limit our reliance on convoys, and therefore prevent the Allies from sinking our convoys. Or at least slow it down a little. So we declare that war, we go ahead, drop our mechanized group to go rush off and take those victory points. Our armored unit goes up and around. You'll notice I am panning quite frequently over to the Barbarossa whole northern front, Ostfront thing. Not so much anymore, but I was just a little worried about what we might end up facing. We have to be more concerned than ever about just watching that front. It doesn't matter right now. First things first, we have to defeat the Persians so we get direct access to India. We're going to just puppet them, so we also need to not just chase down their armies and destroy them, because if we do that, then our puppet's just going to be unreasonably weak. And sadly, that is an area where I messed up against Yemen and Oman, and also Iraq, because I didn't really realize that they would become our puppets once we annexed their puppet masters. And so we kind of messed that up a little bit. We could have had 3 nations' relatively weak armies as opposed to them not having any armies at all, which is where we're at. And since Iraq's already a puppet, we may as well puppet Iran. Or Persia, I should say. So with that all said and done, it's just a matter of just getting all of these troops there and making sure our production's actually going to happen at any rate. We build even more convoys and more escorts because we have terrible luck with our convoys and escorts, as that is just a huge disaster. We're also rushing towards the Persian capital, and there are British rebels everywhere. However, our suppression groups aren't ready for India, so we're just going to have to leave that be for now. We are sending forces over at Tehran in order to hopefully just kick Persia out of the war. We actually have our rebel fighting unit moving over. And they win, because all there was a headquarters. So with that all said and done, hopefully, there we go. Persia is now our puppet. We hopefully will get direct access to India, and we'll bring everybody back to the coasts. With that all said and done, it looks like Japan has made some progress. We are still fighting the Oceanians, so that's an issue. Everywhere else seems to be more or less calm. So we really have, for the first time in a while, some breathing space. France is still a problem in East Africa, we'll just let them be. Ultimately, though, we're in a pretty good spot, and we can actually, in relative peace, focus on the issues at hand and prepare ourselves for the future. Speaking of, I have taken the opportunity to develop 2 war plans for any eventuality. The plan is that with Germany and the Soviet Union basically bleeding each other white, we're going to attack the side that seems like it's winning. Now, the reason we're going to attack the side that seems like it's winning is because, well, that way we'll fight them and then the loser. So, first of all, this is Operation Black Ice, the main thrust through the Caucasus. We'll hopefully take over Stalingrad and other key cities, with a naval thrust, Operation Deportation, which will take their ports in the Black Sea and get some strategic initiative. Operation Breadbasket will be made up of all of the new mechanized units we're going to have produced by this time. It'll rush up, meet up with the troops from Operation Caucasus and Operation Deportation, and rush to Moscow. If everything works, then Operation Tsarbreaker will take over all the major Soviet cities and break the Soviet Union once and for all. Now, that's only if the Soviets start pushing the Germans back. If the Germans look like they'll win, Operation Underbelly. The primary thrust, Operation Puppet Master, will destroy the German puppets, hopefully annexing them, although we might not do that because now we know it'll just turn them into puppets anyway. We'll have mechanized units take over those areas, and Operation Österreich will rush up, seizing this key river and moving into all the Bohemian forts in order to set up a defensive perimeter while we reorganize our forces. We also have to worry about technology for a moment. Anyway, so there's also a thrust of opportunity, Operation Maginot. So if we have enough army, troops, and forces, we'll be able to rush up, seize the Maginot defenses, and eventually cut off occupied France. All of our armored units will also regroup right there where you see the arrows combine and thrust up into Berlin. Now, this plan also requires a mass amount of infantry. Also, all of our occupation forces are ready. So we're going to just take a moment. Consider that we're going to only fight one or the other of these states if it looks like they're winning. Otherwise, we're just going to let them let them bleed each other white. And more likely than not, we're going to have to fight the Soviets, as the Germans are making very quick progress. Anyway, though, it's still up in the air, and it'll still be quite a while before we actually do either of those things. First things first, we're going to take 2 of our new suppression groups up to the United Kingdom, and we will take the remaining 6 over to India and Pakistan, with 2 in Pakistan and 4 in India. Hopefully they will provide enough suppression throughout the region. Now, the main thing is we're going to have to worry about our long-term future. In the near term, we're going to take out the Commonwealth realms, hopefully finally secure Africa, and from that point on, it's going to just be a lot of really just playing it by ear. We'll see what ends up happening. Here is the German-Soviet front, the Japanese-Russian front, and finally South Africa and the problem that shows itself to be. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.